This is the Fujifilm X-H2S. This is also the Fujifilm X-H2S. And in the few weeks that I've had to use this camera, I've really come to appreciate how versatile this is, especially for enthusiasts and professional creators. Let me get this out of the way. This is a pre-production model, a very early pre-production model that Fujifilm was kind enough to lend me over the last few weeks. And in using this across multiple environments, whether it was wildlife situations, in the studio, in the streets, it was apparent to me that Fujifilm tried to throw in as much as they could. What makes Fujifilm cameras so appealing is a mix of things. One, they're relatively compact and easy to travel with. They have a huge suite of lenses and a ton of great features such as Fujifilm simulations that that really make this a bit of a differentiator in the mirrorless imaging space. With the X-H2S, there is no shortage of new features. You have a brand new sensor and processor that really raise the ceiling for what a mirrorless camera can do. Let's look at the video side. Here you have up to 6.2K recording at 30p. And what makes this special is that it records the entire sensor as opposed to just a cutout that's super sampling the sensor. So you have a 3:2 aspect ratio of your video recording. Now, why is this important? Why is this special? Well, it just means that you have more resolution and more area to play with when you're composing your shot for the edit. And especially if you're shooting a lot of vertical content and you don't always want to be flipping your camera 90 degrees, well, you have a bit more height in your video footage that you can play with later, meaning that you can edit for social and TikTok and Instagram a lot easier. And it doesn't stop there. You can record 4K up to 120p in their high speed mode. There is a slow motion full HD that goes up to 240p. But what really brings this all home is the ability to record in ProRes or H.265 at 422 10-bit internally. And what that means is that you have just a ton of depth to your video files, and you can do it all without the need for an external recorder. This leans into that Fuji philosophy of being light, compact, and easy to use. Now, if you were to get a recorder, it unlocks a few extra features such as raw recording, which will be useful to professionals. And that's where this camera really starts to showcase why it might be a really appealing product for many people. The ceiling is just much higher. You can do a lot and you can grow into this over the months and years. With the upgraded processor, there is a significantly improved autofocus system. And I've worked around my Fuji solutions in the past, but this one, even with its beta software, is showing a lot of promise. It is very sticky, it locks into the eye, the face, and if you wanted to, animals, birds, planes, cars, bikes, what have you, it locks in and picks focus. When I was using this in the field, I found that it would track really easily, and sometimes the little box around the eye would jump from eye to eye. You can actually control this to prefer one eye over the other. Sometimes it would really jump between the face and the eye, and it felt, well, a little sporadic at times. However, when I locked in my autofocus settings, I found that the footage never stuttered. And that is the difference here compared to previous Fujifilm cameras, is that it would ensure my subject was in focus. Now let's look at the photo side. Here, a brand new sensor. It's a stacked CMOS sensor, 26 megapixels, which is still plenty for most people. The readout speeds allows this to shoot at 15 frames per second in the mechanical shutter and up to 40 frames per second with the electronic shutter, which is also blackout free. This is going to be incredibly useful for those that are doing action, sports, wildlife, and it's also useful in those certain environments where you might have a very dynamic subject and you want to ensure that you capture as much of the scene as possible. Moving to the body, this is smaller than the X-H1, not as small as the XS20, and still feels relatively compact. You can wrap your hand around it and it feels comfortable. What I really enjoyed is that the new ports on the side, they're easier to access, and there is no more micro HDMI port. It is a full-size HDMI, just something that feels a lot more secure and sturdy to use. X-H2S uses the battery that was introduced with the X-T4. Great battery life when I was using this camera in the field. Along with the camera, Fujifilm has also introduced a cooling fan. And this introduction had me a little nervous because, well, was it a necessity? Do we need this thing? Well, in my use, close to 4 weeks across multiple environments, in very hot, sunny days, sweaty behind the scenes concert situations, I never needed the cooling fan. I could record 6K footage, 4K 120p footage for extended clips, usually ranging from 5 to 15 minutes without any issues. It never gave me a situation where I needed to put the fan on. That being said, I plan on putting a lot more reps, a lot more shoots under my belt with this camera to really see when and if you actually need this accessory. Overall, this camera is a bit of a departure. You don't have that retro styling that Fujifilm has been known for. It is more of a DSLR and has more function to the design itself. You have the D-pad, the joystick from the GFX 100S, you have the custom mode dial. I'm not quite sure why they still have filter on this dial, but you have 7 custom modes that you can assign to photo or video custom profiles. Along with this camera, Fujifilm has also introduced a brand new 18-120 f4 photo and stills lens. And I thought this might be a gimmick, but I won't lie, I had a lot of fun using this lens. The f4 might make some people nervous, but it has been incredibly useful, and even in darkly lit environments, it still performed incredibly well. And this lens, with minimal focus breathing, a dedicated zoom ring, the ability to automatically zoom and focus, it actually makes for a great recording experience where, yes, you can get some fantastic photographs, but for those that are going to be using this for video, for YouTube, for behind the scenes, maybe as a C or D camera, a very versatile lens that can really allow you to get creative in the moment. There's also the introduction of a 150 to 600 millimeter lens. And this thing, well, when you factor in the crop of the sensor, goes north of 900 millimeters, and with the addition of a 2x teleconverter can double that. That is to say, you get a lot of reach with this lens. It is big and small at the same time, kind of like Schrodinger's lens, where it is quite large compared to most lenses on the market. That being said, if you factor in the reach that you're getting and how close you can get to your subject with this thing, well, for the size and weight of a thermos bottle, it's actually not that bad. When I was using this thing, it seemed like the firmware still needed to be tweaked and massaged to get the best results. But I have faith that Fujifilm is gonna figure this one out, and it's gonna make for a great experience. So if you are someone that is hiking a lot, going outdoors a lot, and maybe even planning these large, extravagant safaris, it might be a lens that you wanna add to your wish list. It's just something that's gonna give you a lot more reach. I feel like that adjective was too on the nose. The Fujifilm X-H2S is not for everyone. It's not priced for everyone. It is a statement camera. It really innovates in a lot of areas. It improves on spaces that Fujifilm, hasn't been considered a leader in, like autofocus. And throughout my time pushing this across multiple environments, I found that I could rely on this camera, especially for video, a lot more than previous Fujifilm products. I see that there is still room for improvement, but looking at Fujifilm's track record, there's no doubt that they're really gonna work on this thing to make it a great experience for many users, especially those that are gonna be using it in professional environments. Anyway, that is my first impressions of this camera, and I can't wait to continue using this thing to see what else we can capture with it. I'd love to hear what you guys think, so let me know down in the comments below. As always, my name's Gadgen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.